My daughter told me not to come home for Christmas, and suddenly, everything I thought I knew about my family changed. I'm Zaha, 62, and what I discovered will shock you. Welcome back to your ultimate destination for gripping revenge stories, family betrayals, shocking betrayals, and emotional justice. Subscribe now and join a community and tell us where you're watching from. Turn on the notification bell for our next story. Are you ready to witness the ultimate payback? Let's get started. My name is Zaha. I am 62 years old, and until 3 weeks before Christmas, I believed I still had a family. Not a perfect one, not a loud one, but one that existed. That illusion ended on a quiet Tuesday evening, with a text message that took less than 10 seconds to type and almost ended me. Dad, don't come home for Christmas this year. We need space. Susan. No explanation. No call. No, I love you. Just space. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the screen while my coffee went cold. The house around me felt bigger than it ever had before. Too quiet. Like it was holding its breath. Susan was my only child. Her mother passed away 11 years ago, and from that day forward, it was just the two of us against the world. I worked long hours, skipped vacations, and said no to remarriage because I didn't want Susan to ever feel second. Every Christmas since her mother died, Susan came home. Even after she married Daniel. Even after they bought their place in Connecticut. Even when work got busy. So this wasn't normal. I typed back carefully. Did I do something wrong? 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Minutes passed. Then, it's not about you. We just need time. Please respect that. Respect that. The words sat in my chest like a brick. I wanted to call her. I didn't. I wanted to drive the 4 hours and knock on her door. I didn't. I told myself this was adulthood. That children pull away. That maybe this was healthy. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Susan had never pushed me away before. She leaned on me. Called me for advice. Sent me pictures of her dog. Asked me what kind of wine to buy. Now suddenly space? That night, I pulled the Christmas decorations out anyway. Old habits don't die easily. I hung the lights around the porch, one by one, while the cold bit into my fingers. Halfway through I stopped. Who was I decorating for? The next morning, my neighbor Carol waved from across the driveway. Susan coming in this year? I forced a smile. She's busy. Carol nodded. The way people nod when they don't believe you but don't want to push. Over the next few days, I noticed things I hadn't before. Susan stopped answering my calls entirely. Daniel didn't respond to texts at all. Their shared social media went quiet. No photos. No holiday posts. No countdown to Christmas. It was like they had erased themselves, or erased me. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Daniel didn't like me. Maybe Susan wanted to please her husband. Maybe I had become inconvenient. On Friday, I went to the bank to handle some routine paperwork. The teller, a young man I'd known for years, frowned at his screen. Mr. Zaha, he said slowly. Did you authorize a change to your emergency contact? No, I said. Why? It lists your daughter Susan, but it was changed 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Right around the time the silence started. My stomach tightened. I didn't request that, I said. He nodded, uncomfortable. Just thought I'd ask. I left the bank with a polite thank you and a growing knot in my chest. That night, I pulled out an old photo album. Susan at 7, missing teeth and holding a candy cane. Susan at 15, rolling her eyes but smiling anyway. Susan on her wedding day, hugging me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. She loved me. So why did it suddenly feel like someone else was pulling the strings? I poured myself a drink I hadn't planned on having and sat in the dark living room. My phone buzzed around midnight. A message. From Susan. Please don't show up. It would make things worse. Worse than what? I stared at the message until my eyes burned. Then something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Awareness. People don't push away what they love unless they're scared or controlled. And Susan had never been cruel. But someone else might be. I stood up, turned on the lamp, and opened my laptop. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for yet, just that I was done being passive. If my daughter wanted space, I would give it. But I would also find the truth hiding inside it. Because fathers don't stop being fathers just because they're told to stay away. And whatever was happening in that house, it wasn't Susan's idea. Do you think Susan pushed her father away willingly? Or was someone forcing her hand? Silence can tell you more than words ever will. Susan's silence wasn't angry. It wasn't messy. It was careful, measured, like someone was watching over her shoulder while she typed. Like every message passed through a filter before it reached me. That's how I knew. Whatever was happening, it wasn't coming from her heart. The morning after her last text, I woke up before sunrise. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. Panic makes noise, and noise alerts the wrong people. Instead, I did what I've always done when something felt wrong in my life. I paid attention. I started small. I checked my call logs. Susan hadn't called me once in 17 days. That was a record. Even during her honeymoon, she'd called me after 4. Then I checked my email. Nothing from her. But there was something else. An automated notification from my insurance provider. Subject line: Policy access updated. I opened it slowly. The authorized contact list had been modified. Susan was still there, but a second name had been added. Daniel. My fingers froze on the keyboard. I had never added Daniel to anything. Not my insurance. Not my accounts. Not my paperwork. It wasn't personal, it was principle. I believed in independence, even inside family. So how did he get there? I called the insurance company immediately. After 20 minutes of hold music and canned apologies, a representative finally came on the line. Yes, Mr. Zaha, she said cheerfully. The update was made online. By who? I asked. By the primary contact listed at the time. And who was that? There was a pause. Your daughter, Susan. I closed my eyes. Susan wouldn't do that without telling me. She hated paperwork. She always asked me to handle it. Always. Was anyone else present when the change was made? I asked. I can't see that, sir. But the IP address indicates it was done from a residential network in Connecticut. Daniel's house. My jaw tightened. I thanked her and hung up. This wasn't coincidence anymore. This was coordination. Later that afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I drove. For hours. No call. No warning. No announcement. I didn't plan to confront anyone. I didn't plan to knock on doors. I just needed to see her. Even from across the street. Susan's house looked the same. Blue shutters. White porch railing. Lights on inside. But something felt off. Her car wasn't there. Daniel's was. I parked down the block and watched. An hour passed. Then 2. At 6:47 p.m., Daniel came out alone. He locked the door behind him, checked his phone, and drove away. Susan never appeared. I waited another 30 minutes. Then I did something I knew Susan wouldn't forgive me for if she ever found out. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I knocked. Still nothing. But inside, I could hear something. Movement. Soft footsteps. I knocked again, firmer. The door opened halfway. Susan stood there. She looked thinner. Tired. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Dad, she whispered. I felt something crack in my chest. I just wanted to see you, I said gently. I won't stay long. She glanced behind her. Then back at me. You shouldn't be here. That wasn't Susan's voice. That was fear. I know, I said quietly. But are you okay? She hesitated. Just a second. But it was enough. Yes, she said too quickly. We're just busy. Daniel's stressed. Work stuff. Is he the reason you asked me not to come home for Christmas? Her fingers tightened on the door. No, she said. Then, softer. It's complicated. That was the closest she'd come to honesty in weeks. I lowered my voice. Susan, did I do something wrong? Her eyes filled instantly. No, she said, shaking her head. Never. The door creaked as she leaned closer. I just need time, Dad. Please. Behind her, I heard something drop. A sharp sound. Like a glass hitting a counter. Susan flinched. A second later, Daniel's voice echoed from somewhere inside. Susan? Who is that? Her entire body stiffened. She looked at me. Really looked, like she was memorizing my face. I love you, she whispered. Then she closed the door. Locked it. I stood there for a full minute before I moved. I didn't knock again. I didn't call out. I understood something now. This wasn't distance. This was containment. On the drive home, the pieces began to align. Daniel wasn't just keeping Susan busy. He was isolating her, cutting off support, managing access, slowly positioning himself between her and everything and everyone that grounded her, including me. That night, I pulled out a legal folder I hadn't touched in years. My will, my assets, my property deeds. Everything was still in my name. But if Daniel was already inserting himself into accounts, it meant he was planning ahead. And people who plan ahead don't do it for love. They do it for control. I opened my laptop again and began documenting everything. Dates, messages, account changes, conversations. Not because I planned to accuse anyone, but because truth needs witnesses, And paper never forgets. Before bed, I checked my phone one last time. A new message from Susan. I'm sorry you came all that way. Please don't do that again. No, are you okay? No, did you get home safe? Just instructions. I typed slowly. I'll give you space. But I'm still here. Always. She read it. Didn't reply. I placed the phone face down and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because when someone forces a daughter to choose between peace and her father, they make an enemy they don't see coming. Do you think Daniel is isolating Susan on purpose? Or is there something even darker going on? People think betrayal always announces itself loudly. Shouting, slamming doors, cruel words. But the most dangerous betrayals arrive quietly, disguised as concern, wrapped in reason, and carried out through paperwork. I didn't confront Daniel after that night at the house. I didn't call Susan again either. I did something better. I waited. And while I waited, I watched. The first thing I did was call an old friend of mine, Harold. We'd worked together years ago. He retired from finance, but retirement doesn't erase instincts. Harold, I said, I need you to look at something. Quietly. He chuckled. You sound like you're about to ask for a favor that'll cost me sleep. I need to know if someone's moving money through my family. Silence. Then, serious, send me what you have. Over the next 3 days, I forwarded him everything. Bank notifications, insurance changes, minor account activity that had seemed harmless at first. By the 4th day, he called me back. Zaha, he said slowly, your daughter isn't the one pulling these levers. My stomach tightened. But, he continued, she's being used as the key. That sentence sat heavy in my chest. He explained it simply. Daniel wasn't stealing outright. Not yet. He was positioning himself, adding his name to secondary access points, redirecting notifications, softening the perimeter, preparing. He's not reckless, Harold said. This guy's patient. And patient men plan exits. Exits? I asked. Yeah. He's setting things up so when the split happens, or something worse, he walks away clean. With leverage. I stared at my living room wall, suddenly feeling like a stranger in my own home. And Susan? I asked quietly. She trusts him, Harold said. Which means she's blind to him. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. Then I did something that hurt more than anger ever could. I went back through my memories. Moments I'd dismissed. Comments I'd ignored. Daniel insisting Susan didn't need stress and should let him handle things. Daniel answering her phone for her. Daniel speaking for her when she was right there. I had mistaken control for confidence. That night, I made a decision. If Daniel was isolating my daughter, then I wasn't going to fight him directly. I was going to let him believe it was working. The next morning, I sent Susan a message. I've been thinking. You're right. Maybe some distance is healthy. I don't want to interfere in your marriage. She replied almost immediately. Thank you, Dad. That means a lot. Daniel replied too. From Susan's phone. Appreciate your understanding. We're just trying to build our future. I smiled at the screen. Good. Now he thought I was retreating. 2 weeks passed. I stopped calling. Stopped messaging. I let Christmas come and go in silence. And then, Daniel made his move. It came disguised as a family email. Subject line, planning for the future. Daniel wrote about security, long-term care, estate simplification. Words men use when they're trying to sound responsible while reaching into pockets that aren't theirs. At the bottom of the email was a suggestion. A meeting. With a lawyer. To review documents. I laughed out loud. He wasn't hiding anymore. I replied calmly. Sounds reasonable. Let me know when. The meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. Neutral location. Conference room. Glass walls. Smiling receptionist. Daniel arrived first. Confident. Relaxed. He shook my hand like we were equals. Susan followed behind him, quiet. Eyes tired. Not looking at me. The lawyer began explaining trusts, living wills, power of attorney. Daniel nodded at all the right places. Then the lawyer turned to me. Mr. Zaha, he said, your son-in-law believes it may be helpful for Susan to have full authority in case of emergency. Daniel leaned forward. It's just practical, he said. Dad, you're getting older. Things happen. I looked at Susan. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. Susan, I asked gently, do you want this? She hesitated. Daniel's hand found her knee. She nodded. Yes, she said softly. I think it makes sense. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't choosing this. She was complying. I turned back to the lawyer. I'd like a moment alone with my daughter, I said. Daniel stiffened. That's not necessary. It is, I said calmly. The lawyer cleared his throat. I'll step out, he said quickly. As soon as the door closed, I leaned toward Susan. Are you safe? I asked quietly. Her eyes filled instantly. I don't know, she whispered. My heart shattered. He says you're stuck in the past, she continued. That you'll drain our future. He says I need to choose. My voice stayed steady, even as my chest burned. And what do you want? She looked at me like no one had asked her that in a long time. I just want peace, she said. I nodded. Then I stood up. When the lawyer and Daniel came back in, I was calm. I agreed to the meeting, I said. But not today. Daniel frowned. I want time, I continued. Time to review everything. Daniel forced a smile. Of course. But his eyes were sharp. Suspicious. He knew something hadn't gone his way. That night, I took the final step. I moved everything. Every asset. Every account. Every property. Into a structure Daniel had never heard of. Fully legal. Fully documented. Fully protected. By the time he realized what I'd done, it would be too late. Because the next move wasn't about money anymore. It was about freeing my daughter and destroying the illusion Daniel had built. Should Zaha confront Daniel directly, or let the trap close completely before revealing the truth? The hardest part about revenge isn't patience. It's silence. Especially when you're watching someone you love slowly being cornered, piece by piece, by a man who smiles while he does it. After that meeting with the lawyer, Daniel changed. Not openly, not dramatically, but subtly, the way predators do when they realize the prey might be more alert than they thought. Susan stopped replying to my messages again. Not immediately, not abruptly, gradually. Short replies became delayed replies. Delayed replies became read receipts with no response. Then nothing. And Daniel? Daniel suddenly became polite. Too polite. He started calling me sir. Started asking about my health. Started pretending we were on the same side. That's when I knew he was nervous. Men like Daniel don't become respectful overnight. They become cautious. One evening, about a week after the lawyer meeting, my phone rang. Daniel. I let it ring twice before answering. Zaha, he said warmly. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you. I've been busy, I replied calmly. Same here, he said. You know how it is. Family, work, life. I hummed noncommittally. There was a pause. Then he went for it. Listen, Daniel continued. Susan's been stressed. The back and forth, the paperwork. I think it might help if you gave her a little space for now. There it was. Not concern. Control. You already asked for space, I said. I respected that. Yes, but what? I interrupted gently. You want me gone completely? Another pause. I'm just saying, he said carefully. Sometimes parents don't realize when they're holding their children back. I almost laughed. Almost. Daniel, I said, my voice calm but firm. I raised Susan alone after her mother died. I worked 2 jobs. I missed birthdays, holidays, sleep. I didn't hold her back. Silence. Then he shifted tactics. Well, he said, his voice tightening. If something were to happen to you, we just want to make sure things are smooth. There it was again. The future he kept imagining, one without me in it. I've already taken care of that, I said. He perked up. Oh, yes, I replied. Everything's settled. Settled how? He asked quickly. I smiled to myself. You'll see, I said. And I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew the next phase had begun. Daniel wasn't just isolating Susan anymore. He was preparing to replace me. The next morning, I got a call from Susan. Her voice was small, tired. Dad, she said, did you change something? My heart dropped. Change what? The bank, she said. Daniel tried to move money for the mortgage payment, and it didn't go through. I took a slow breath. I made adjustments, I said carefully. You didn't tell me, she said. I needed to be sure first. She hesitated. Daniel's angry, she admitted. He says you're trying to control us. That hurt more than anything else. I'm trying to protect you, I said softly. From what? She asked. I almost told her everything. Almost. But timing matters. And truth delivered too early can be twisted. From mistakes you didn't choose, I said instead. She didn't respond. I love you, I added. I know, she said quietly. Then she hung up. That afternoon, Daniel showed up at my house. Unannounced. I watched him through the window as he stood on my porch, jaw clenched, fists tight. I didn't rush to open the door. I made him wait. When I finally did, I smiled politely. Daniel, I said, To what do I owe the visit? He stepped inside without asking. You cut us off, he said flatly. No, I corrected. I reorganized my assets. You sabotaged us, he snapped. I raised an eyebrow. How? The mortgage didn't go through, he said. Bills bounced. You embarrassed us. I crossed my arms. Funny, I said. I don't remember asking you to rely on my money. His face reddened. Susan is my wife, he said. What's hers is mine. That was the moment. That single sentence told me everything. I leaned in slightly. Then why? I asked calmly. Were you trying to access accounts that aren't in her name? He froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. The mask slipped. You've been watching me, he said slowly. Yes, I replied. I have. His voice dropped. You think you're clever? He sneered. You think you can outmaneuver me? I smiled. No, I said. I know I can. He laughed bitterly. You're an old man clinging to control, he said. Susan sees it too. I shook my head. No, I said quietly. Susan sees what you allow her to see. That's when he leaned closer. Threatening. Low voice. You back off, he hissed. Or things get ugly. I held his gaze. They already are. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I stood there for a long moment after he left. Then I picked up my phone and made the call I'd been avoiding. Susan, I said when she answered. You need to come see me. Alone. She hesitated. Dad, this isn't about money, I said. It's about truth. Silence. Then, I'll come tomorrow, she said. When the call ended, I sat down heavily. Tomorrow would change everything. Because once Susan saw what Daniel had been doing behind her back, there would be no going back. And Daniel? Daniel had no idea the walls were already closing in. Should Zaha show Susan everything at once? Or let her uncover Daniel's lies step by step? The next morning, I waited in my living room, the sunlight slanting through the blinds and painting lines across the floor. My heart wasn't racing. It was calm, like the surface of a lake before a storm. Because storms are predictable, and I had learned to predict Daniel. The knock came softly, almost hesitant. I didn't flinch. I knew it was Susan. My daughter. My little girl, now grown, but still the same heart I'd held in my hands 20 years ago. Dad, she said, stepping inside. Her eyes were wary, tired. A faint shadow of doubt lingered there. Daniel had been poisoning her mind slowly, one conversation at a time, making her question everything I had taught her. But she came. That was the first victory. Sit, I said. We need to talk. She perched on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, hands twisting in her lap. The quiet hum of the city outside was the only sound. Until I spoke. Susan, I said gently, do you trust me? Her eyes flicked up. Of course, Dad. Even when it's hard to believe. I asked. She swallowed. I guess. I let the silence stretch. Let her feel the weight. Let the tension grow. Because understanding the truth has a price. And Daniel has been living rent-free in her mind for too long. I need to show you something, I said, reaching for the folder I had kept hidden for weeks. Every bank statement. Every suspicious transaction. Every email. Every whisper of deceit I had uncovered about Daniel's attempts to manipulate, isolate, and control her. Her eyes widened. Dad, what is this? Evidence, I said simply, of the things he's been doing behind your back. She leaned closer. I could see the mix of curiosity and fear, the kind only a parent can provoke when showing a child the harshness of reality. I handed her the first few pages. Her hands trembled. This can't be, she whispered. He lied. I nodded slowly. Yes, he lied. About money. About intentions. About everything. He thought I wouldn't see. He thought I would let him manipulate you. He underestimated me. She looked at me, voice breaking. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I had to be sure, I said. And I had to act carefully. Confronting him too early could have made everything worse. Susan sank back into the couch, the folder heavy in her hands. I can't believe he was planning all this, while I thought he loved me. Love. I hated that word now when it came from him. Love is supposed to protect, not scheme. I walked closer. Susan, do you understand what kind of man he really is? Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, I do. But I feel so stupid. How could I have been so blind? You weren't blind, I said softly. You were deceived. And that's not your fault. But now you know. And knowing is power. Her hands clutched the folder tighter. So what do we do now? I leaned back in my chair, my mind already racing with possibilities. Daniel thought he could isolate her. He thought he could weaken me. But he was wrong. Every move he made, I had anticipated. Every plan, I had countered silently, like a shadow in the night. You let me handle Daniel, I said, voice calm but firm. I'll make sure he can't hurt you or anyone else again. Her brows knitted. You're serious? I've been serious for a long time, I said. You just didn't know it. There was a pause, thick with emotion. I could feel her fear, her anger, her relief all at once. And I let her sit with it. Because the truth hurts before it heals. Then I added, quietly, but there's something you need to do. And it's hard. Her eyes widened. What? You need to face him, I said. Look him in the eyes. Show him you know. Not with yelling. Not with fighting. With facts. With proof. With the truth. She swallowed hard. I can't. Yes, you can, I said firmly. You will. Because this isn't just about him. This is about you. And about making sure he never manipulates anyone again. Her lips trembled. Okay. I'll try. I smiled gently. Good. But you're not alone. I'll be right there. And we'll do it smart. Carefully. Strategically. Together. We sat there, the folder between us, sunlight shifting across the room. For the first time in weeks, I felt her fear start to turn into clarity. The anger wasn't gone. The betrayal wasn't gone. But she could see now. And seeing is the first step toward justice. Just as we were planning the next move, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. I know you're talking. Don't even think about it. I let it sit on the screen for a moment. Then I smiled. He didn't realize he'd just confirmed everything. He'd underestimated our patience, our preparation. And more importantly, he didn't know how far we were willing to go. Susan looked at me. Dad, he sent this. Good, I said. It's exactly what I wanted. He's nervous. That's when mistakes happen. Her hands clenched the folder. So, we confront him now. Not yet, I said. Timing is everything. We strike when the moment is perfect. And that's when I realized something. Revenge isn't about being fast. It's about being precise. About letting the other person dig their own hole while you watch. And Daniel? He was digging, faster than he knew. The phone buzzed again. Another message from him. I'm watching you. Don't make a move. I chuckled. He still doesn't get it, I whispered. Susan's eyes widened. Dad, what do we do next? I leaned closer, my voice quiet, full of intent. We wait. We let him dig deeper. And when he's ready, we pull the trigger. She nodded slowly. The first spark of courage was returning. And that's when I knew. Daniel had no idea what was coming. Do you think Zaha should confront Daniel directly, or set a bigger trap first? Comment your thoughts below. The evening air was crisp when Susan and I left the house, the city lights flickering like distant stars. Every step we took was deliberate. Not a word about what we were about to do escaped my lips, because patience is the weapon of the wise. And at 62, I've learned patience can crush the most arrogant fools. Susan kept glancing at me, worry in her eyes. Dad, are we really going to do this? Confront him? I shook my head. Not yet. That's what he expects. We're not confronting. We're preparing. Timing is everything. She frowned. But I can't just sit here while he thinks he's winning. I finished her sentence. Exactly. Let him dig his own grave. We just need to nudge him in the right direction. I pulled out my phone and started typing. Emails. Texts. Subtle reminders. Carefully planted seeds. Nothing direct. Nothing that could be traced back to me. I was patient. I was silent. And Daniel, unaware, continued to believe he was in control. Susan watched me, trembling. I don't know if I can handle this. I placed a hand on her shoulder. You can. You're stronger than you think. And remember, we're not doing this emotionally. We're doing this smart. We're doing this strategically. The first part of the plan was to bait him. Let him overreach. Let him believe the house, the money, and Susan's trust were all within his grasp. That's when mistakes are made. That's when arrogance becomes his downfall. I had already prepared documents showing Daniel's lies, fake bank statements, forged signatures, manipulated records. All the proof we needed to expose him in a way he couldn't deny. And now, it was time to let him see his reflection, to make him believe his victory was near. Later that night, I called Daniel under the guise of casual conversation. Hey, just checking in. How's everything going at home? Susan mentioned you were planning a little celebration. There was a pause. I could almost hear his smirk through the phone. Everything's fine, old man. You worry too much. I chuckled softly. Worry? Me? I'm just making sure everything is under control. You wouldn't want any surprises, right? He laughed, a sharp, arrogant sound. Surprises? From you? Don't make me laugh. I've got it all under control. Perfect. He was cocky, overconfident, exactly as expected. I let the line go quiet for a moment. Good, I said finally. Because we both know how inconvenient surprises can be. You don't want one at your doorstep, do you? He laughed again, nervously this time. You're just full of jokes, old man. I smiled. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just waiting for the right moment. I hung up before he could respond, knowing he was already thinking, already overthinking. That was the first step of the trap. Make him paranoid. Make him think we didn't know. Make him make the next move. The next day, I went over the documents with Susan, explaining what she would need to do. She would witness, she would understand, but she wouldn't act rashly. Daniel had underestimated her, underestimated me, underestimated everything we stood for. And now he would pay. Dad, what if he suspects? She asked, biting her lip. I shook my head. He already suspects nothing. That's the beauty of this. We're shadows in plain sight. He thinks he's winning. And when he steps into the wrong place, he'll find he's already trapped. Hours later, Susan left for work. I stayed home, reviewing everything again. I called a private investigator. Nothing obvious, just background checks, surveillance confirmations, and timelines. Every detail of Daniel's life was meticulously mapped. He would not know when or how the exposure would come, and that uncertainty would haunt him. By evening, the tension was unbearable. I paced my living room, coffee in hand, replaying every interaction, every conversation, every smirk Daniel had thrown my way, every insult, every casual dismissal. He had disrespected me, tried to manipulate my daughter, thought he was untouchable, and now I had the power to make him regret every decision. Then, a knock at the door. My heart didn't race, but my mind sharpened. I opened it to find a courier, a package from the investigator. Inside were photographs, evidence, proof, clear, undeniable proof of Daniel's deception, falsified receipts, secret meetings, conversations I hadn't overheard, and at the bottom, a note, he won't know what hit him. I smiled. My silent preparation was now ready to become action. Susan returned home later that night. I didn't reveal anything immediately. Instead, I waited until she sat beside me, weary from the day. Everything's ready, I said, handing her the envelope with the photographs and documents. Her eyes widened. Dad, all of this, she whispered. This proves everything. I nodded. Everything. And now, it's time to make him realize he's not untouchable. Her lips quivered. I'm scared. Good, I said gently. Fear sharpens the mind, but courage wins battles. And we're about to show him what real courage looks like. Just as she was about to speak, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. I know something's going on. Don't think you can trap me. I leaned back, calm as ever. Perfect, I muttered. The bait has taken. Susan looked at me. What do we do now? I smiled, quietly, with cold precision. We wait. We let him make the first mistake. He will. And when he does, nothing will save him. The clock ticked. The city hummed outside. And inside, a plan that had been years in the making was about to spring to life. Do you think Zaha should confront Daniel now, or wait for a bigger mistake? Comment below with your thoughts. I leaned back in my chair, my mind already racing with possibilities. Daniel thought he could isolate her. He thought he could weaken me. But he was wrong. Every move he made, I had anticipated. Every plan, I had countered silently, like a shadow in the night. You let me handle Daniel, I said, voice calm but firm. I'll make sure he can't hurt you, or anyone else, again. Her brows knitted. You're serious? I've been serious for a long time, I said. You just didn't know it. There was a pause, thick with emotion. I could feel her fear, her anger, her relief all at once. And I let her sit with it. Because the truth hurts before it heals. Then I added, quietly, but there's something you need to do. And it's hard. Her eyes widened. What? You need to face him, I said. Look him in the eyes. Show him you know. Not with yelling. Not with fighting. With facts. With proof. With the truth. She swallowed hard. I can't. Yes, you can, I said firmly. You will. Because this isn't just about him. This is about you. And about making sure he never manipulates anyone again. Her lips trembled. Okay. I'll try. I smiled gently. Good. But you're not alone. I'll be right there. And we'll do it smart. Carefully. Strategically. Together. We sat there, the folder between us, sunlight shifting across the room. For the first time in weeks, I felt her fear start to turn into clarity. The anger wasn't gone. The betrayal wasn't gone. But she could see now. And seeing is the first step toward justice. Just as we were planning the next move, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. I know you're talking. Don't even think about it. I let it sit on the screen for a moment. Then I smiled. He didn't realize he'd just confirmed everything. He'd underestimated our patience, our preparation. And more importantly, he didn't know how far we were willing to go. Susan looked at me. Dad, he sent this. Good, I said. It's exactly what I wanted. He's nervous. That's when mistakes happen. Her hands clenched the folder. So, we confront him now. Not yet, I said. Timing is everything. We strike when the moment is perfect. And that's when I realized something. Revenge isn't about being fast. It's about being precise. About letting the other person dig their own hole while you watch. And Daniel? He was digging, faster than he knew. The phone buzzed again. Another message from him. I'm watching you. Don't make a move. I chuckled. He still doesn't get it. I whispered. Susan's eyes widened. Dad, what do we do next? I leaned closer, my voice quiet, full of intent. We wait. We let him dig deeper. And when he's ready, we pull the trigger. She nodded slowly. The first spark of courage was returning. And that's when I knew. Daniel had no idea what was coming. Do you think Zaha should confront Daniel directly, or set a bigger trap first? Comment your thoughts below. The evening air was crisp when Susan and I left the house, the city lights flickering like distant stars. Every step we took was deliberate. Not a word about what we were about to do escaped my lips, because patience is the weapon of the wise. And at 62, I've learned patience can crush the most arrogant fools. Susan kept glancing at me, worry in her eyes. Dad, are we really going to do this? Confront him? I shook my head. Not yet. That's what he expects. We're not confronting. We're preparing. Timing is everything. She frowned. But I can't just sit here while he thinks he's winning. I finished her sentence. Exactly. Let him dig his own grave. We just need to nudge him in the right direction. I pulled out my phone and started typing. Emails. Texts. Subtle reminders. Carefully planted seeds. Nothing direct. Nothing that could be traced back to me. I was patient. I was silent. And Daniel, unaware, continued to believe he was in control. Susan watched me, trembling. I don't know if I can handle this. I placed a hand on her shoulder. You can. You're stronger than you think. And remember, we're not doing this emotionally. We're doing this smart. We're doing this strategically. The first part of the plan was to bait him. Let him overreach. Let him believe the house, the money, and Susan's trust were all within his grasp. That's when mistakes are made. That's when arrogance becomes his downfall. I had already prepared documents showing Daniel's lies, fake bank statements, forged signatures, manipulated records. All the proof we needed to expose him in a way he couldn't deny. And now, it was time to let him see his reflection, to make him believe his victory was near. Later that night, I called Daniel under the guise of casual conversation. Hey, just checking in. How's everything going at home? Susan mentioned you were planning a little celebration. There was a pause. I could almost hear his smirk through the phone. Everything's fine, old man. You worry too much. I chuckled softly. Worry? Me? I'm just making sure everything is under control. You wouldn't want any surprises, right? He laughed, a sharp, arrogant sound. Surprises? From you? Don't make me laugh. I've got it all under control. Perfect. He was cocky, overconfident, exactly as expected. I let the line go quiet for a moment. Good, I said finally. Because we both know how inconvenient surprises can be. You don't want one at your doorstep, do you? He laughed again, nervously this time. You're just full of jokes, old man. I smiled. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just waiting for the right moment. I hung up before he could respond, knowing he was already thinking, already overthinking. That was the first step of the trap. Make him paranoid. Make him think we didn't know. Make him make the next move. The next day, I went over the documents with Susan, explaining what she would need to do. She would witness, she would understand, but she wouldn't act rashly. Daniel had underestimated her, underestimated me, underestimated everything we stood for. And now he would pay. Dad, what if he suspects? She asked, biting her lip. I shook my head. He already suspects nothing. That's the beauty of this. We're shadows in plain sight. He thinks he's winning. And when he steps into the wrong place, he'll find he's already trapped. Hours later, Susan left for work. I stayed home, reviewing everything again. I called a private investigator. Nothing obvious, just background checks, surveillance confirmations, and timelines. Every detail of Daniel's life was meticulously mapped. He would not know when or how the exposure would come, and that uncertainty would haunt him. By evening, the tension was unbearable. I paced my living room, coffee in hand, replaying every interaction, every conversation, every smirk Daniel had thrown my way, every insult, every casual dismissal. He had disrespected me, tried to manipulate my daughter, thought he was untouchable, and now I had the power to make him regret every decision. Then, a knock at the door. My heart didn't race, but my mind sharpened. I opened it to find a courier, a package from the investigator. Inside were photographs, evidence, proof, clear, undeniable proof of Daniel's deception. Falsified receipts, secret meetings, conversations I hadn't overheard. And at the bottom, a note, he won't know what hit him. I smiled. My silent preparation was now ready to become action. Susan returned home later that night. I didn't reveal anything immediately. Instead, I waited until she sat beside me, weary from the day. "Everything's ready," I said, handing her the envelope with the photographs and documents. Her eyes widened. "Dad, all of this?" she whispered. "This proves everything." I nodded. "Everything. And now, it's time to make him realize he's not untouchable." Her lips quivered. I'm scared." "Good," I said gently. "Fear sharpens the mind, but courage wins battles. And we're about to show him what real courage looks like." Just as she was about to speak, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "I know something's going on. Don't think you can trap me." I leaned back, calm as ever. "Perfect," I muttered. "The bait has taken." Susan looked at me. What do we do now?" I smiled, quietly, with cold precision. "We wait. We let him make the first mistake. He will. And when he does, nothing will save him." The clock ticked. The city hummed outside. And inside, a plan that had been years in the making was about to spring to life. Do you think Zaha should confront Daniel now, or wait for a bigger mistake? Comment below with your thoughts. The next morning, I woke early. Coffee in hand, I sat by the window, watching the city slowly wake. At 62, patience had become my closest ally. And patience was exactly what I needed now. Daniel thought he was in control. That arrogance was his weakness. And weaknesses, in the right hands, are dangerous. Susan hadn't come down yet. I heard her shower running, the water echoing in the quiet house. She had no idea what was about to happen, but she trusted me. That trust, that was the weapon I would use to protect her and expose Daniel's lies. I picked up my phone and checked the message from last night again. "I know something's going on. Don't think you can trap me." Perfect. Just as I planned. His arrogance, his need to control everything, would push him to make a move. And every move he made would dig him deeper. By 9 a.m., the first ripple in his confidence arrived. Daniel had attempted to access the house records online. The deeds, the accounts, the hidden investments he thought he could manipulate. He assumed no one was watching. He assumed the old man in the quiet house had nothing left. I smiled, sipping my coffee. He didn't know that every keystroke he made had been mirrored. Every attempt at manipulation had been recorded, time-stamped, documented. And the beauty of it? He had no clue. At 10 a.m., Susan joined me in the living room. Her eyes were heavy with worry. "Dad, what if he's already suspicious?" I shook my head. Suspicion isn't action. He may suspect, but he won't act unless he feels threatened or overconfident. And he's both overconfident and careless. That's when mistakes happen. She looked at me, hesitant. "And you're sure we're ready?" I nodded. "More than ready. He just doesn't know it yet." Just as we spoke, my phone buzzed. An alert from the investigator. He's made the first move. I leaned in. Susan noticed my focus. What move?" I tapped the screen. There it was, an email sent from Daniel's account to a supposed business partner, claiming he had full access to the house and all accounts. He didn't realize he was copying every letter, every attachment, to a monitored server we controlled. Susan gasped. "Dad, he's making it worse for himself." I nodded. "Exactly. Let him. Every lie, every false claim is building his trap." By noon, Daniel had escalated. He called Susan, trying to pressure her into signing documents he had drafted for the house. Documents he believed were legitimate. Documents that were perfectly crafted to look real, except that we had already manipulated every official stamp, every notary verification, to expose him. "Dad, he's calling me," Susan said, panicked. I handed her my phone. "Let me handle this." I answered in a calm voice. "Daniel, good morning. How are you?" He chuckled, falsely confident. Fine. I just wanted to make sure Emily's affairs are moving along smoothly. You know, I can help." "Help?" I repeated, letting the word hang. Funny, because I was under the impression that this house, these accounts, and Emily's inheritance are already secured. "Did you want to clarify something?" There was a pause. I could hear him calculating. I just want to make sure everything is in order." "Order," I said slowly. "I see. And did you think sending emails and drafting documents without consent was order?" His voice stiffened. I'm just trying to help Emily. I thought you'd appreciate that." I smiled softly, but my mind was razor sharp. "Helping? Daniel, helping isn't taking what isn't yours. Helping isn't planning behind my back. And helping certainly isn't underestimating a man who built this for 40 years. There was silence on the line. Perfect silence. I leaned back in my chair. "Here's the thing. You made a choice. You chose arrogance over respect. You chose deception over honesty. And that choice will be your undoing." He stammered. "Wait, what do you mean?" "Exactly what I said. You've dug a hole. And I've just started handing you the shovel." I hung up. Susan stared at me, wide-eyed. "Dad, did he understand?" I shook my head. "No. That's the beauty. He thinks he's controlling it all. He doesn't realize the house, the accounts, and the evidence are already beyond his reach. He's about to walk straight into the trap we've set." Hours passed. Daniel sent more emails, more frantic messages, each one recorded, each one time-stamped, each one another nail in his coffin. By evening, he made the biggest mistake yet. He tried to transfer funds from the joint account into an account he thought was private. What he didn't know? That account had been closed months ago, under my direction, and all movements were traceable. The bank flagged it immediately. By 7 p.m., Daniel was panicking. Every move he made, every attempt to claim control, was documented. Every lie he told would now serve as evidence. Susan looked at me, her voice trembling. "Dad, we could take him to court tomorrow." I smiled calmly. "Patience, my dear. Let him dig a little deeper. Let him sweat a little more. The bigger the mistake, the sweeter the downfall." And just as I said that, the phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. "Hello." A calm, authoritative voice said, "Mr. Zaha, this is the bank manager. We've been reviewing some activity on the Harris account. There's irregular activity. We need to speak immediately." I smiled, my pulse steady. The trap was closing. Daniel thought he was smart. He thought he could outmaneuver a retired man. He thought he could manipulate my daughter. He was about to learn the cost of underestimating a quiet, patient father. Should Zaha confront Daniel directly, or let the evidence speak first? Comment your choice below. The next morning, I woke before the sun. At 62, early mornings had become my sanctuary. I poured myself a black coffee and let the silence stretch. Susan had left for work, still unaware of just how dangerous Daniel had made the situation. That ignorance, that trust, was her shield, and it was my responsibility to protect it. I opened my laptop. Emails, messages, bank notifications. Every single move Daniel had made yesterday was documented, compiled, time-stamped. Each innocent action of his was now a weapon in my hands. The phone rang. I knew immediately it was him. Daniel. His number flashed on the screen, and I smiled before answering. "Mr. Zaha," he said, voice tight. I think there's been a misunderstanding with the bank. They called me this morning about, something." I took a sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch before I replied. "Misunderstanding? Yes. I thought the account was active. I didn't realize maybe there was a freeze. I just wanted to help Emily, to make sure everything was fine. Helping, Daniel," I said slowly, "does not involve unauthorized transfers. It does not involve drafting documents behind the backs of those you claim to love. And it certainly does not involve making threats to the property of others." A long pause. "Then, Dad, I cut him off. "No, Daniel. Listen carefully. Every move you made yesterday, every email, every document, every call you thought was secret, I have it all. Recorded. Saved. Documented. And it's only a matter of time before the authorities see it too. There was silence. And then, the sound I wanted most. Panic. I didn't mean, he stammered. You made your choice, I said calmly. You chose deception. You chose arrogance. You chose to underestimate me. And now, you will face the consequences. I hung up. I could feel the tension in my chest, the kind of satisfaction that comes from knowing the first threads of a web you've spun are already tangling around your target. By noon, I had contacted a trusted lawyer, someone who had been a family friend for decades. They were briefed on the full scope, the property, the accounts, Daniel's attempts to manipulate Susan and myself. They were ready to act the moment I gave the word. Susan returned from work, her face tired but oblivious. I smiled at her, though inside, my mind was already racing, plotting the next step. Dad, she said, pouring herself some tea. You've been quiet all morning. Everything okay? I leaned back, calm, collected. Everything is fine, Susan. Just handling some adult matters. You know, business stuff. She nodded, trusting. That trust would be her protection and my weapon. By late afternoon, the first real evidence of Daniel's miscalculation arrived. An official notice from the bank flagged every attempt he had made to manipulate the accounts. Each transfer was rejected, each email flagged for fraud investigation. The irony wasn't lost on me. Daniel had tried to manipulate my finances, thinking himself clever, and now every move was a self-inflicted wound. I called Susan over. Look at this, I said, showing her the flagged transactions. Her eyes widened. Dad, I had no idea he was doing this, she whispered. I know, sweetheart. That's why you didn't need to, I replied. Let him dig his own grave. Patience is our ally. He will destroy himself without us lifting a finger. The day passed slowly. Every hour, my phone buzzed with updates from the lawyer and the investigator. Daniel was frantic now. Emails, phone calls, texts, all ignored. His arrogance had given him blind spots, and he had fallen into every trap we had set. By evening, Daniel made the biggest mistake yet. He tried to show up at the house, claiming he had urgent matters to discuss. He didn't know that I had arranged for legal documentation to be on hand. Every step he took was monitored, every approach calculated. I opened the door calmly when he rang the bell. His eyes were wild, sweating, panicked. Daniel, I said, voice steady, controlled. I'm glad you decided to visit. We have much to discuss. He hesitated. Dad, I just want to talk. About the house, about Emily. About lies, I interrupted. About deception. About arrogance. You thought you could manipulate the situation, take what was not yours, and it would go unnoticed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His arrogance had been replaced by fear, and fear, I knew, was the first step toward defeat. You have until tomorrow to set things right, I said. After that, we let the authorities and the courts handle your mistakes. He swallowed hard. Dad, please. I can fix this. You can, I replied, if you admit the truth. If you restore what you try to take. But your time is very short. He turned and left, realizing he had underestimated a man who had not just built a life, but had also built patience, strategy, and silent power. Susan watched wide-eyed. Dad, you're amazing. I smiled softly. It's not amazing. It's necessary. And it's far from over. He still has one more chance, and then he will see the full consequence of underestimating a father. That night, I sat by the window again, sipping coffee, reviewing every detail. Every move Daniel had made was now a thread in a web, and the web was about to tighten completely. Should Zaha confront Daniel directly in the final showdown, or let the evidence and authorities finish the job? Comment below. The morning sun streamed through the blinds, but I didn't notice it. At 62, I had learned that clarity often comes in the stillness of early hours. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, reviewing the final documents my lawyer had prepared. Every fraudulent transaction, every attempt Daniel made to manipulate Susan or myself, every lie he had spun, it was all laid bare. And now, the final step was mine. I called Susan into the living room. She entered cautiously, eyes wide. She had trusted her husband, but she didn't know how deeply his deception ran. Dad, what's happening? She asked. Everything, sweetheart. It's time the truth comes out, I said softly, keeping my voice steady, calm, deliberate. But first, you need to understand that this isn't just about money. It's about respect. It's about trust. And it's about the choices people make when they think no one is watching. She nodded, sensing the gravity in my words. The doorbell rang, sharp, urgent. Daniel. Predictably, he had made the bold, foolish move of coming to the house, convinced he could intimidate us one last time. He didn't know patience had been my ally, nor that every step he had taken had been recorded, monitored, catalogued. I opened the door, calm as ever. Daniel stood there, eyes darting nervously, suit slightly disheveled, phone pressed to his ear. His bravado had cracked. Panic was visible beneath the thin layer of false confidence. "Daniel," I said, voice low, controlled. "Good morning. I trust you slept well." He forced a smile. "Of course. I just wanted to." I cut him off. "Let me save you the trouble. We both know why you're here. You wanted access. You wanted control. You wanted to manipulate Susan. And you thought a father at 62 would be powerless, invisible. But you underestimated patience, strategy, and experience." He gulped. "Dad, I can explain." "Explain?" I repeated. "Do you think 1,000 emails, bank records, and documented threats can be explained? Do you think lying to your wife, lying to me, and plotting behind our backs can be explained?" He opened his mouth, then hesitated. He had no defense. "I'll give you one last chance," I said. "Restore everything you tried to take. Admit your actions. Apologize to Susan. And resign from any role that gives you access to her finances. Do that, and we may consider leniency." His face twisted in disbelief. "Leniency? You can't." I can," I said, cutting him off again. "Because the law is clear, and the evidence is clear. You are lucky you are dealing with me before the authorities are involved. But that luck ends if you continue to defy what's right." He finally looked at Susan, realizing she had been part of the conversation this entire time. Her gaze was steady, disappointed, but unwavering. He had expected confusion, fear, but instead, he found clarity. "You lied to me," she said, voice breaking slightly. "You lied about everything. Your intentions, your honesty about us. About our marriage. How could you think I wouldn't find out?" He opened his mouth again. Words failed him. That's the thing about liars. They prepare for every scenario except the truth. I took a step closer, close enough for him to feel the weight of my presence. "Daniel, your arrogance brought you here. Your lies built this path. And now it ends. It ends because I refuse to let greed and disrespect dictate my daughter's life. It ends because you underestimated the man you humiliated." He finally lowered his gaze, defeated. For the first time, he looked small, weak, and exposed. By noon, the lawyer arrived with the official documents. Daniel was forced to sign, admitting his actions, restoring any access he had tried to manipulate, and resigning from positions that gave him influence over Susan or our finances. The air in the room was heavy, tense, but I felt a wave of calm wash over me. This wasn't just a victory. It was a lesson, for him, for Susan, and for me. Justice wasn't about revenge alone. It was about protecting the ones you love and ensuring wrongs are corrected. Susan hugged me tightly afterward. "Dad, you saved me. You saved everything," she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. I held her, breathing deeply. "I didn't just save you, Susan. I taught one very important lesson. Always be aware of the people who surround you. Always value the truth. And never underestimate patience." Later that evening, Daniel left the house for the last time. His arrogance, his lies, his deceit, all stripped away. I watched him go, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. Sorrow because he had wasted his life on greed and disrespect. Satisfaction because the harm he planned had been stopped. I returned to my study, poured a glass of whiskey, and reflected. Life at 62 was complicated. Betrayal could come from the most unsuspecting places, even from those we trust. But clarity, patience, and action could rewrite outcomes. I had lived long enough to know that silence before action often led to the best outcomes. And tonight, I finally allowed myself to relax. The storm had passed. Susan was safe. Her future was secured. And for the first time in weeks, I felt that deep, profound sense of justice. The kind that doesn't need applause. Only the quiet satisfaction of knowing right had prevailed. I poured myself a second glass and smiled faintly. Life could be cruel, deceitful, and treacherous. But in the end, honesty, preparation, and courage always win. For Daniel, the lesson was learned too late. For me, the mission was complete. For Susan, the life ahead was bright, free from manipulation, deceit, and fear. And that, at last, was enough. What would you have done if you were Zaha? Would you have confronted Daniel directly, or waited for evidence to do the work? Comment below. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.